Hello, everybody. This is JJ Hardy with Victory Leadership Coaching. And as promised, today I am doing a free training on effective communication. Let me give the viewers here a couple seconds to show up, take a drink of my coffee. Okay. Well, I don't think we're going to wait any longer here. A minute or two is probably long enough. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, my name is JJ Hardy. I own Victory Leadership Coaching, and this company, what it does is it provides training and coaching, which is basically just a supportive environment to teach, coach, and mentor leadership development. And what leadership development is it provides training on how to get new and existing managers, how to train them on their new role, which, now that they're not an execution level employee anymore, there's some different things that you got to deal with when you're a manager that you didn't have to deal with when you were just out there doing the work. And oftentimes companies do not train these skills. Some of the business owners don't even know these skills. The one that we're going to talk about today, however, is effective communication. I put a survey out and many people were interested in this. I did train on this 3 weeks ago, and I'll probably be doing another training that's not on effective communication here in another couple of weeks. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So that's me. I'm JJ Hardy. I am a retired U.S. Army veteran. I am the owner of Victory Leadership Coaching. And yeah, this is my company. I'm a family man, retired in 2018 from the military, and found that, well, basically what I just got done telling you is that people do not train the skills that managers need to become leaders. And it drove me crazy, actually. I had 3 jobs after I retired, and then I decided to start a business and do some training on this. And you know what? I'll be honest with you, businesses really, really appreciate it. They just do. And thank goodness, because that means I'm not the only crazy one. I'm just kidding. All right. So who am I? What is leadership? We'll talk about mental health and communication, active listening, assertive communication, active constructive responding, praise, and then I'll have a little bit of something for y'all at the end here. All right. So, as I said, that's me. You see me here. Now you see me there. I'm everywhere. I am a published author. You can find my book on Amazon. I'm a passionate leadership development professional. I love leadership. I am married. My wife and I, this year, we've been married 18 years as of March. I have 2 kids that are a lot bigger than that now. But if you look at that picture, that was on the flight line at Pearl Harbor. So that was actually just a couple years before I retired. They did my promotion to Chief Warrant Officer 2 right before we loaded a vessel for the unit that I was serving with to go over and do a training exercise. And we did both at the same time. Since I was already there, it was a cool place to do it. And so I have my family do it. I do have a couple podcasts, Warrior Leadership, and I have Victory Leaders Lounge. And those are just both ways for me to teach people about leadership development, and get some other points of view. Warrior Leadership is one where I partner with my friend DB the therapist. DB he's an amazing person, and he really helps me put a spin on leadership from the mental health perspective. And I'm going to do a little bit of that in this presentation as well. The Victory Leaders Lounge, that podcast specifically is designed to bring other entrepreneurs and senior leaders into the room here and have a conversation about leadership or their journey, whatever they'd like to talk about. I love highlighting other people because that's what makes life and business successful is surrounding yourself with a bunch of like-minded people. So I like doing that both off screen and on screen. And that's me. Yeah, if you're interested in that book, let me know. I'll send you the link for it. All right. So, leadership. I put a quote here from Douglas MacArthur. A true leader has the confidence to stand alone, the courage to make tough decisions, and the compassion to listen to the needs of others. The U.S. Army defines leadership as providing purpose, direction, and motivation while operating to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. Now, what does that mean? I believe that purpose, direction, and motivation are good because that's how you create influence with another human being. Specifically, when they're at work, letting them understand why they were hired in the in the business that you're in, and what purpose that function serves for the business. Why are they so important that they needed them in this business? The direction, well, that's the why behind their job, and that's just teaching them how to do the work that they're going to be doing and making sure you're providing that continued support even after they get that initial training for their role. I apologize, y'all. My nose is really stuffy this morning. Yeah, and the motivation part, well, that's where you show that you care. So often a young execution level employee goes into a job and they automatically assume that the managers are going to be trash because of experiences they've had at other places with managers. It takes training. When people focus on tasks and statistics and they don't focus on the people, I'm sure as a manager, you want to get the work done. You want the work to get done. But if you don't focus on the people that are doing the work, it's going to be a lot harder for you. If you focus on the people, the numbers will take care of themselves. The tasks will get done because they want to get it done for you. They don't want to necessarily just get it done because they need to get it done. Anyway, that's leadership. Moving right along. Mental health and communication. I'm a firm believer that if you can learn leadership and you can create an environment that is rooted in leadership, a culture at work that's rooted in leadership, then anything can get done. All problems can get solved. Often what happens in that last scenario that I was talking about with the last slide is that, people aren't communicated with. They're made to do the work and then not followed up with. They're told what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. When they do approach you, it's a very directive approach and you go straight to the work. And what that does is it kind of makes people feel isolated. And I put the comment below here that says, don't make your employees feel like they are on an island. Well, yeah, don't make your employees feel like they're on an island. Communicate with them. Tell them how well they're doing. Let them know where they need improvement. By the way, that tough part of the conversation will actually build a relationship. People don't want you just placating them all the time and then giving them a bad review when it's time for their annual or biannual or whatever frequency you give them their counselings or reviews. They want complete honesty. I would say 9 times out of 10, people do not show up to work every day just to screw things up. You get a drink here? All right. Moving right along. All right. So active listening. This is probably the most important part of communication. If I didn't talk about anything else in this class here, then this is the one thing that you need to understand very, very well. Active listening is when you are really, really doing everything that you can to pay attention to what the person is saying. You can hear something that someone says and not be listening. I'm going to say that again. You can hear what somebody says and not be listening. So Stephen Covey, he wrote the Highly Effective Habits book, and he's just a great author. He has courses and everything else out there, but he said, seek to understand than to be understood. Now I'm going to go into that a little bit. And actually, it says it right there. Respond to what is said, not with an unrelated thought. Oftentimes, we get caught up when we're having conversations with somebody else. And this is like the opposite of relationship building, by the way, where somebody will be talking to us and we'll be hearing them, but something that they said will spark a thought. And then we don't hear anything else that they say. We may look like we're listening. We might actually be listening a little bit, but the only thing we can do, whether it's in response to what they're saying or not, is want to engage them with that thought that we have in our head, which actually is a very selfish approach. Because if you don't respond to, you might be missing the point. If you don't respond to what they're actually trying to convey to you, it's going to make you seem like kind of a jerk. I've gotten caught up in it. We all get caught up in it, to be honest with you. Don't do that. Okay. When you're actively listening, you're hearing what they say. Sometimes you even repeat some of what they say back to them to make sure they know you understood it. And then you respond to what they said. You don't always have to repeat some of what they say back to them. Sometimes that's not even appropriate. But I would say 9 times out of 10, if you just make sure that you respond to what they actually say, they're going to appreciate it. Let me see. Okay. Assertive communication. Assertive communication is when you are just needing to get a specific point across. Aggressive communication, well, so communicating clearly and with respect is assertive communication. Aggressive communication is really when somebody feels like they're being talked at, not talked to. And, that's when people feel like they're not valued as well. I mean, when you're just being kind of a jerk to them, that they don't really appreciate that, you're going to lose them. In today's workforce, people can work anywhere. Give them a reason to want to work for you. So, how do we do that assertive communication? Well, you respond in a way that's active and constructive. So responding to others in a way that will build relationships. Everything I have said up to now kind of brought us to this point. So you see this quad chart here. I like it because it conveys it very well. I learned this in a class when I was in the Army, and I might as well just continue moving forward with it. So you see here on the top, it talks about constructive and destructive. And on the left, you see active and passive. Well, if you stay in that upper left quadrant of this chart here, that is where relationships are built. That is when people feel like they're valued. That is when people feel validated. That is when if you respond this way, it's going to be the most constructive. And that's showing authentic interest. It elaborates the experience. People feel validated and understood. That is when you are probably practicing active listening. Now, this is just going into more examples on the opposite of that, actually. So if you're talking to somebody, and I'm going to read verbatim here. If they are quiet, understated, they're understatingly supporting what you're saying, the conversation might fizzle out. What ends up happening is the person feels unimportant, misunderstood, embarrassed, or guilty. Well, it's obvious why. If you're not really in it, Sometimes this even includes body language, and I'm pretty sure I talk a little bit more about this in a second. But if you're not making eye contact, if you're not, you know, making sure that you're not moving around with your hands or maybe checking your phone or looking at somebody across the room or whatever the case may be, if you're doing all of those things, that's passive. Now, destructive, active, destructive. Let's go to the upper right quadrant of this. Squashing the event brings the conversation to the halt. The other person will feel ashamed, embarrassed, guilty, or angry. That's when you cut people off when they're talking. Come on, y'all. Don't do that. I know it happens. As a matter of fact, for me, I'm going to say that probably happens more here at the house with my children than it does with others out at work or whatever the case may be. And when you just squash the event and you interrupt somebody while they're talking, do people feel valued? No. As a matter of fact, that's probably worse than the passive side of the conversation. Make sure that you are letting people talk. People want to have a voice. People want to be validated. People want to be they want to know that somebody else is going to hear what they have to say. Now, the passive destructive, this is definitely a no-go. This is when somebody starts talking to you and you don't even start listening to them in the first place. So, ignoring the event, conversation never starts. The person that's trying to talk to you feels confused, guilty, or disappointed. Well, that happens, Usually there's something that you can do to combat that before a conversation even starts. So, when somebody is trying to get your attention and you know that you're a busy person, right? You can tell them that when you're busy, you are all over the place. And make sure you let them know. I have to do this with my kids, to be honest with you, because I'm very, very busy when I'm working from home. Let them know that they need to get your attention before you start having a conversation. And what that means for me, and it could mean something different for you, is actually saying my name and making sure I turn away from what I'm doing and making eye contact with you. Once I have that eye contact with you, I'm going to start paying attention to what you have to say. If I'm not making eye contact with you and you're just talking in the background, that's ignoring the event, which most people don't intentionally do. Communication goes two ways, right? So make sure that you can set them up for success by just telling them how to communicate with you, letting them know what works and what doesn't. To avoid that, you just got to make sure they know to get your attention. Praise. Oh man, let me take a sip of my coffee here. Praise is when you tell somebody that they did something right. Maybe you give them an award, or maybe you take them out to lunch. You just simply walk up to them and say, "Good job." I mean, there are a number of ways you can give somebody praise. Publicly announcing that they did something above and beyond. Now, that's a really good way to do it. You want to boost somebody up. That's how you do it. What that does is it gives employees a sense of accomplishment that that provides individual accountability and prevents a sense of ownership. When you tell somebody they're doing a good job, that elicits a good feeling. And as a result of that, they want that feeling to keep on happening. This is probably a bad example, but why do people do drugs once and then continue doing drugs? Because they enjoy the feeling. Well, that can work the same for positivity at work and giving them praise. If you show somebody that you appreciate them and acknowledge that they're doing a good job, they're going to continue doing a good job because they want that feeling to happen again. It's the same thing. Please give your people some acknowledgement, some praise. Let them know that you appreciate the hard work that they're putting in. So I know this was just a tidbit for training here, and I know I scheduled it for an hour, but I try to keep these online trainings short. And the reason that I do that is because honestly, without interacting with me, you're not going to get much out of this training. I love the questions, I love the dialogue and all of those things. And by the way, this this sort of training, especially on communication, I have a more in-depth version of this. It's much more effective when you get a group of your people together and we do some training. I can't really provide the same value just talking to the masses like I am right now, the same as I would if I'm just getting a group internally to your organization together to have a conversation, or at least a cohort together where we are all talking about this in a Zoom room or maybe in a boardroom or whatever the case may be. So, what do I provide on a regular basis? Well, I provide all of these things. I provide training on a myriad of different topics, and they're all related to leadership. All the different subjects that are related to team building, building mental resilience, um, you know, effective communication, like what we're talking about right now, the basics to understand leadership. I can just go over that if that's something you want your team to have. I also teach people how to set and achieve their goals. The basics of what a coach does and what successful people do. People know how to set and achieve goals. They don't just they don't just think about things, they take action on things, and they do that very strategically. They don't just stick their behind in the air. They put their best foot forward and they lean into it. In addition to that, I do individual trainings on all those topics. So if that's what you're interested, let me know. Those are one-off training. That's what I call specified training. I do have self-led and group training. I have a course that I'm working on now that certifies people as an executive coach, a leadership coach in their organization. So that's to come. But right now, I have a really, really, really good what I call first time leaders course, and it brings people together when I teach it. So a lot of times, what these companies that I work with, what they do is they get a group of their people together. We do it over 6 weeks. I introduce the course and give an orientation, and then I give them a module to work on. It's self-led, but we come back once a week, whether it's in person or over a computer screen like this. We discuss what they've learned, but we don't just discuss what they've learned. We discuss how we can apply that to what they're doing in their day-to-day workings. Okay, that's important. I mean, don't undervalue that. That people, a lot of these companies out there, they will have somebody come in and they'll have them do training. They'll come in for a day, a week, whatever the case may be, and they'll give training, quarterly training, whatever the case, and then they walk away. Well, there's no implementation there. People get really excited about what they learned. Maybe they try to put in place a couple things that they learned, but then they walk away, and in about a week it fizzles off and they go back to doing what they were doing before. Well, that doesn't solve any problems at all. If you really want to instill a different culture in your organization, you need to learn together. You need to discuss these important things together and move forward together. Now, that's not the only way that works, right? I have a coaching program both for individuals and for groups, and that is how you so coaching, a lot of people don't know what it is. Coaching is taking somebody that understands a skill and then helps them become very proficient in that skill. Okay. Now there's also another coaching program. So there's coaching for leadership development, but also small to medium sized businesses that are growing, right? I can help them create a decentralized leadership program and structure in their organization and help them put their systems and processes into place. And by the way, that's a lot of fun. I'm a former logistics guy, transportation logistics. And so my mind lives in chaos. If you have chaos right now and you want to make some sense of it, let me know and we can work together. And then the last thing, of course, speaking. I love talking about success. I love talking about leadership. You know, I used to be a guy that was very poor and I grew up coming from not much. And I my family, you know, my mom and my dad, they never really got past the point that they were when I was younger, living paycheck to paycheck and sometimes less than paycheck to paycheck, not being able to pay the bills. I did that for a while after I became an adult, but between then and when I retired from the military and even now where I'm doing even better, I learned how to rise above that. And that's because of leadership, mental resilience, moving forward in the face of opposition. If you need somebody to come and speak at an event about any of these things, resilience, leadership, moving forward even when it's hard, just let me know. And now I put this statement at the bottom. There's a mental health crisis. I could probably share some statistics, but right now I'm not going to. Man, they're overwhelming. Go to apa.gov. That over 50% of the workplace struggles with feeling valued. Over 50%. Makes me so upset. If they don't feel valued, just like we said in this training, they're not going to stay at your business. Okay. Well, it's out there. Check out my content, my website, my podcast, or purchase my book. All of my links are at that link tree below. You can either scan that with your phone, or if you're on your phone, you can go to that link tree right there, that web address, and find all my links. I don't see that there's anybody in here right now. I've seen that people have popped in and out. But if you see this pop up in your feed and you watch the whole thing and you get to this point, please like and subscribe to this content. I love doing this, but I need the word to get out so that more people will attend these things. But in addition to that, comment below. You know, I would love to keep the conversation going. I mean, you can like, subscribe, reshare, repost, whatever the case may be to this too. But commenting below, asking me questions, telling me what kind of training you really want, not just want, but need for yourself and your teams. Those are all important to me. I want to make sure that I'm serving the workforce the way that the workforce wants to be served, not the way I want to serve it, because that goes against what I believe. So I really have nothing else for y'all. For those of you who watch this and get to this point in my video in the future, I appreciate you. My email address and my contact, my phone number is also below on this slide. And I have no problems with you just calling me. Again, nothing but love for y'all. Have a great rest of your weekend and stay blessed.